Over here on Cloud Kingdom, we saw Targa actually double 6-pull last TVZ. He played against Tasia and just went 6-pull, lost, 6-pull, lost. Really unfortunate. We didn't get to see Targa's play, but we're going to see it this game because we already have a 9 Overlord. It is Targa in the top right-hand corner of Cloud Kingdom.
That's right, Targa from Team Mindfreak, also placing top 8 for the ESWC. Targa be doing pretty well. Top 8's not bad. I know some other players. I want to give a shout out to Harstam as well, who placed top 8. Mana played extremely well, beating Stefano and taking home the entire prize after beating 4GG. I think it went Mana, 4G, and then Stefano was your top 3. Over here in the bottom left, we have from Team Axiom, it is Ryung. Ryung, recent recruit. And a lot of people kind of alluded to the fact that Ryung probably was going to get picked up because after the last MLG where Crank had a breakout performance with Axiom, Ryung stayed because there's a giant typhoon. It's a typhoon, right, in Korea? Or was it a... It wasn't a tsunami, right? It was bad weather. It was a typhoon that was hitting Korea. So Ryung stayed with Axiom and streamed from there. And then I think they basically hung out and Bane took care of him. And from there, the rest is history. And maybe Ryung can show off finally some awesome results at international tournaments.
Well, Ryung is starting off very economic-centric, going for the command center first, and then directly after that, the barracks. I like the positioning. A lot of times people will actually put it down at the natural. I'm actually one of those players that do that. It's risky. If any spawning pool openings come out first, then you a lot of times lose the game. Straight up. But with this, the command center now is part of the wall, the barracks is part of the wall, and you won't be prone to that stuff. And Targa is one of those players that mixes it up and does go spawning pool first sometimes. So I like the decision to make the command center on top.
Yeah, and it's just to be safe. I'm sure by now everyone knows about Targa's tendencies to be aggressive, you know, or to take risks and sometimes even do the seemingly inane thing to do, like 6-pool on a map like Cloud Kingdom. So I think Targa can utilize that to his knowledge, especially if he's just playing standard. Everything seems pretty by the book. Gas steal on Terran. Ryung looked like he wasn't going to take more than 1 gas anyways. Instead, seeming like he's going to go for very early Hellions, but still have a very nice Marine count. Yeah. He can either drop a couple more barracks or just go for their command center.
Sorry, I kind of like this gas steal, though. It really stops Cloak Banshees. And it's at a very minimal cost, 75 minerals. You're already losing the 50 minerals from the drone, so might as well just put that extractor down for, let's say, 25 minerals. So maybe it's not 75. It's 25 minerals that you're wasting, and you're really stopping your opponent from taking this second gas. Although what Ryung could do is take the gases over here very easily, so you can get a second and third gas. So maybe not. I'm going to take that back, but I don't know. I have to look at it more, but 25 minerals, very, very reasonable to actually steal that gas.
I like that too. It's a nice little touch that just basically limits the options of Ryung, right? Because there's players like Marine King. After you leave his base, he just immediately gasses up and does some tricky stuff. You never know what to expect, especially from Korean Terrans, who've just become really clever with a lot of their openings. You know, they take a little bit of an inefficient route in order to trade information and surprise you a little bit more. We've seen delayed cloak. We've seen, delayed 2 base all-ins that makes it look like a fast third orbital command, which is actually what Ryung's doing, dropping that fast third CC. From here, just control the map. Now, Andre, do you like mech on Cloud Kingdom if you choose to go for it? Or do you like more of the bio mech like Marine Tank?
I think bio is a little bit more powerful on this map. Counterattacks are a big problem, and I feel like mech doesn't deal with that nearly as well as bio does. I don't know, I feel like bio just has that certain touch to it that allows you to be very effective with small amounts of units. And if you have Marines and a siege tank on the top ground, it makes it very hard to actually justify some sort of counterattack just because that positioning alone allows you to deal with all of those units. So I do feel like bio is the better choice, but it doesn't mean mech isn't bad either. You can actually play it complete turtle style, where you don't even attack for the first 30 minutes, and then you wait until 4 base. And you basically make counterattacks completely useless because a lot of times you're going to spread out all your production facilities and there's nothing of substance in the direct main. So you can actually make it so that okay, you attack my main, so what? I have everything elsewhere. I have most of my stuff in this bottom right ledge that I can just put all my production there, defend the bottom right, and I just attack the top left and zone out.
Ryung's doing the double factory blue flame with a quick +1 build where you eventually transition over into mech, which is a nice little way to squeeze out. It's kind of like the variation where you can get out a lot of pressure early on, because before the problem with going for like Hellion Banshee is if Zerg kind of deflects the Banshees, your Hellions really can't do much because they easily get shut down by the Queens. So now Terran's love trying to go for that 15, 16 Hellion run by Roast, 20, 30 drones, and while they establish their third command center, and they still get a reasonable amount of upgrades and a Thor count up in case of any kind of mutas. Although look at this from Targa. He's going to go for a really high swell of units. He's actually not droning out that heavily considering his third base is about to finish. Normally you want to go up to around 60 drones or so, right, Andre? Now he's at 45 and he's making a lot of Zerglings.
I think he's just really scared. He doesn't want to overdo it with drones because of the fact that Terran's been so inanimate with his units for such a long period of time. It's like, I'm expecting something. I don't even see a third base down for you. So something is up right now. What are you doing, Ryung? That's why he's playing super defensive. He has his evolution chambers in a nice place. He made a lot of Zerglings, and he has a lot of Queens. So I agree so far with everything that he's done so far. And as you can see, Blue Flame is just shown.
Very nice. And with the Blue Flame should heavily indicate that Ryung is leaning over towards mech, although trying to get into a nice position and focus on the Queens. Great transfuses from Targa, and all of his Queens survive with a bountiful amount of hit points. And Ryung didn't do any damage. Wow, great job.
No, he didn't. And you know what? These mutas are coming out at a perfect time. This is actually really difficult for Ryung to defend against all different positions. Yes, he has turrets in place, but the third base is going to add another, you know, like...
it's a liability.
A little, yeah, exactly. A little bit of a liability, a little bit more space that he has to cover with the same amount of units. And how many Thors does he have out in the field? Not that many.
He's got one. Oh, he's got one with two about to pop out. And that's one base that you're not necessarily going to be able to cover, although the muta threat isn't that significant. In fact, Targa losing one almost immediately. A few more flying straight into your death. What is going on? I think a little misrally there from Targa. I think he wasn't paying attention. Loses a couple for free, and he has also some Banelings and Zerglings traversing around the map.
Don't want to traverse into Hellions, though. That's probably the worst thing you could do. A nice job so far by Ryung to fend off all this pressure. You can see that additional mutas are actually being made. Now, I have seen scenarios where players go mutas the whole time. Like, they just mass in mutas to defend against everything. And that might be a way Targa can actually approach this. I have seen that before, but it doesn't look like he's actually upgrading anything more into the mutas. So it's just to force a higher Thor count, and then hopefully he can overrun his opponent with just massive amounts of Roaches and Zerglings. We'll see that in a little bit, I'm sure, as we do see all the upgrades for Glial Reconstitution, Melee, Carapace, and Missile Attacks. So that's definitely coming out soon. But before that happens, Ryung doing a 3 Thor attack.
Oh, the muta's flying straight over them, taking a pretty big volley. And Targa will have to back off. He's transitioning also back into Roaches, going triple Evo, similar to... it's a kind of a variant of what TSL Symbol loves doing. Triple Evo is a way just to get a high amount of economy. But the way TSL Symbol loves doing it is going for a huge influx of drones early on while still being safe and really maximizing Queen usage. And Targa's been able to do that because he's kept his Queens alive, and he still has a really good amount of drone count. This is great macro play from Targa. Yeah,
I agree. And it will be hard for Ryung to really deal with all of this. Mutas, what are you doing?
Taking a lot of free pot shots, and the Mutas haven't been able to do anything, whether it's harassing or picking off free units. A lot of Hellions attacking this fourth base. Targa has plenty of time.
Ryung doing the right decision. Backing up from here saying, oh, wow, you have Roaches and Zerglings. I need to be so careful. He's even backing up with the Hellions. And he says, okay, let's wait for Seachanks to be out, and then I'll do that same exact push. Yeah. And he has a pretty healthy Thor count. Now, Thors are actually so important in TVZ. They tank a lot of damage. Similar to your TVTs, how you want to incorporate Thors just to have those Marines and Marauders stay in the same position. That way, the AoE of your Seachanks are dealing the same amount of damage to the same amount of units. So these Thors are actually invaluable. A lot of times, I don't mind if I go up to 5 Thors. You just need to build on that siege tank count so you're actually doing substantial damage.
And now Targa has hit it a comfortable amount of units, although now he's starting to incorporate some infestors and attacking the hive. So he's still going to play a little bit more passive because obviously he wants to wait for that hive to kick in. But that's just going to give Ryung a little bit of... I would say it was going to give him a timing, but he's actually getting pulled back to his third base. Nice diversion tactics from Targa, even killing off a pretty handful amount of SCVs. He's gotten 10 thus far. And now able to regain some map control. This is what you need to do to stall for time. Targa playing this very well.
Oh, yeah. And look at this. Targa even getting into the natural. This is a really, really nice pressure. Siege tanks will go ahead and greet these roaches on the right-hand side.
Oh, attacking the third again,
Targa,
although tanks are waiting.
What are you doing, Targa?
He wanted to obviously go for 2 different sides. If you can trade the roaches out efficiently and whittle down the tank numbers, but he just traded around 12 roaches for 1 and didn't exactly go according to plan. Falling a little bit short, but he still has killed a pretty good amount of SCVs, 23 to, well, just 1 kill.
Yeah.
The SCV count's pretty low, but I feel like Ryung, his counterattack is still going to be super strong.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's look at the army tab real quick. 129 to 68. He almost doubles his opponent's army size. That is insane, and it's because he overdid it in the amount of roaches he lost. He should not have been doing that. Infestors are going to come over here, but they're not going to be too useful right now just because of the amount of siege tanks, the amount of units that are out in the field. Fungals, infested Terrans won't really work nearly as well. The 4th base going down here. Now, Greater Spire is on the way as we speak, but
he spent so much of his resources getting roaches
exactly. And it's all because he's actually trading to cost inefficiently.
Well, nice little trade here at the 3rd. In fact, he'll clean up all the tanks in the Hellions force. A little bit of reaction from Ryung, maybe pressure him and catch him out of position. Maybe he can get some good Fungals and Infested Terrans off and swarm the enemy. Ryung's army supply is still massive. It's at 100 of mech units, and that's going to be really tough. Targa doesn't even have any Corruptors to immediately morph into Broodlords either, so he's pretty much just relegated to just stick to Roach composition.
And look at this, Vikings are already in production, so Ryung is going to intercept the transition. That's so clever of him. You know, you really anticipate what's coming, and then you do it right. And look, he's even trying to meet back up with all the rest of his units. He knows, okay, my units did a good job. They took out the 4th base. They took out a lot of roaches. Let's go ahead and just bring all this back.
Yeah,
they've done their work.
Too.
Yeah, and then just reinforce it yet again. Let's look at the army supply. 124 to 124. Exactly the same.
I feel like Ryung, I think he thinks that Targa's hive should be done, and he has Broodlords. That's why he doesn't want to overextend, because one of the most awkward moments is where you actually move up with mech, and you get kind of jammed up by the Broodlings, and you can't really escape. So I feel like Ryung is playing it extremely safe. At the same time, he's doing all the right things. He's getting all his upgrades. He's transitioning into air, getting his 4th base, stifling Zerg's economy. Targa forced to double expand on the right side, not only in the right mid-hand position, but also the bottom. Losing a couple infestors here and there as well is definitely going to sting, as now it's only 2 infestors onto the field. And wow, the siege right in the face of the roaches, and Targa's not paying attention.
Oh, and these roaches are going to be burned to smithereens, sir. Wow. As the roaches just get dismantled in this. Now, Broodlords are on the way, but that Viking count has been pretty nice for quite a long time. Let's look at the units. 8 Vikings out in the field. That's plenty for the amount of Broodlords that are out, 2. So Targa looking in a terrible position. Even now, 5 Corruptors are on the way, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Even with the Thor production, it's looking really, really complicated for Targa. Bottom right-hand position is being taken by Targa, just trying to sneak that expansion in there. But how it stands, I mean, Ryung is just 2 all over the map. He's been playing this so well, denying his opponent of a 4th base, really relegating him to 3 base economy the whole time, and from there he can just play the war of attrition. It's a perfect way to play.
Wow, picking off even the Corruptors and Broodlords with his Viking count. Targa really has no answer to this. He's going to have to commit to 1 giant attack. He's moving down the ramp. Ryung has just so much stuff. The tanks are very nicely cushioned by the Thors and their hit points. Queens can't even transfuse anything because there's nothing worth transfusing. GG. And Ryung takes game number 1 with immaculate mech play.
If you look at the 3rd base, you look at the 4th base of Ryung, both times there are not a lot of defenses there. The third base had just the wall of supply depots. The fourth base had the planetary fortress. In that situation, it's just like Bio and TVT. Do you want to be going head-to-head with Marines and Marauders against siege tanks? Absolutely not. That's a death wish. You want to be actually moving around the map, catching your opponent out of the position. And when Ryung takes such a forward position, you need to actually threaten that with some sort of counterattack. Give up your expansion. Say, okay, well, I'm not going to defend that anyway. That's a losing line. Try to base trade, or at least take out the expansions, and then get Broodlords behind that and try to get a composition advantage on your opponent. But trying to meet him head-to-head was not going to work. Those roaches need to be used for a different reason, not for attacking the siege tanks and Thors.
I mean, to be fair, Ryung was really good with his defense. I mean, if his siege tanks were kind of chasing the other roaches in the natural, different story. Targa would have to buy lots of time, maybe another minute, and that would have made the big difference. Wouldn't have to spend so much money on roaches instead of, he would have been able to spend money on his corruptors instead of his roaches. As a result, kind of lost his fourth base, and from there, Ryung took too big of advantage. Game Number 1 was brought to you by labytes.com. Use promo code NASL when you're at the checkout menu, and use the link below here in the lower third, labytes.com. We have a commercial prepared for you, brought to you by all the NASL casters.